Hi everyone, in this video we are going to install and configure OneDrive with Rclone on Linux. In the first part of this video, I will show you how to install Rclone on Linux and configure it to connect to a OneDrive account. After the connection is successful, in the next part we will configure a folder on OneDrive to be synced or mounted with a folder on the Linux server. This is very useful when we want to store website backups, database backups, system logs, or other important data on OneDrive automatically. Next, before we start configuring the Linux server, you need to have a OneDrive account ready. This can be a personal OneDrive account or a Microsoft 365 business OneDrive account. Next, we will go to the official Rclone website to download this tool for our operating system. In this case, I am using a Windows computer to configure the Linux server remotely through SSH, so on the Windows machine, I will also download the Windows version of Rclone. After downloading it, extract the Rclone file you just downloaded. After extracting the file, we will have a folder that contains the Rclone executable. At this step, you do not need to run it yet. Just keep this folder here because we will use it later to authorize the OneDrive account. Now, we will open a terminal window to connect to the Linux server. If you are using Windows, you can open Windows Terminal, PowerShell, or Command Prompt. Before installing Rclone, we will update the package repository on the Linux server. Next, we will install some required tools on the Linux server to support the Rclone installation and configuration process. Next, we will install Rclone on the Linux server. In this step, I will use the quick installation command provided by the official Rclone website. After running the command, the system will automatically download and install Rclone on the server. If you see the installation completed message on the screen, it means Rclone has been installed successfully on the Linux server. After installing Rclone successfully, next we will start configuring Rclone to connect to the OneDrive account. To create a new connection, type N, then press Enter. Next, give your connection a name. You should use a short and easy-to-remember name because this name will be used later when we check, sync, or mount data from OneDrive to the Linux server. Rclone supports many different types of connections. In this video, we will connect to OneDrive, so look for Microsoft OneDrive in the list. In my example, the OneDrive ID is 42, so I will type 42 and press Enter. Please note that this ID may be different on your machine depending on your Rclone version. At the client_id step, we will skip this option by pressing Enter. Similarly, at the client secret step, we will also press Enter to skip it. Next, Rclone will ask us to choose the Microsoft Cloud environment. For a personal OneDrive account or a normal Microsoft 365 account, select Microsoft Cloud Global. In this example, I will type 1, then press Enter. Next, at the tenant option, we will press Enter to skip it. Next, Rclone will ask if we want to edit the advanced configuration. At this step, we do not need any advanced configuration, so type N, then press Enter. At the browser authentication step, Rclone will ask whether we want to automatically open a web browser on the server. In this case, because we are configuring through SSH, we will choose N. Now, copy the command that Rclone displays on the screen. To copy the command from the terminal without exiting the Rclone configuration process, highlight the command you want to copy, then press Ctrl+Shift+C. Then, go back to the Rclone folder that we extracted earlier on the Windows machine. Here, right-click on an empty area. Then choose to Open Terminal in this folder. Then, paste the command we just copied from the SSH window into the terminal window on Windows. If the browser shows a success message like this, it means the login and authorization process for Rclone has been completed successfully. Now, we can go back to the terminal window on Windows to get the authentication token generated by Rclone. Then, go back to the SSH window on the Linux server. At the config_token prompt, paste the full token you copied from the Windows machine, then press Enter. Next, Rclone will ask us to choose the type of OneDrive account or connection we want to use. In this case, I am using OneDrive Personal, so I will choose number 1, which is OneDrive Personal or Business. At this step, in this example, I will choose the drive clearly named OneDrive Personal. Here, it is option number 2, so I will type 2 and press Enter. Next, if the drive information looks correct, type Y to confirm and continue. If the displayed information is correct, type Y, then press Enter. Finally, type Q and press Enter to exit the Rclone configuration screen. At this point, we have finished creating the OneDrive connection in Rclone. To verify it, you can run the following command to list the remotes you have configured in Rclone. If the remote name we just created appears in the list, it means the configuration has been saved successfully. Now we will check whether Rclone can connect to OneDrive successfully. Please note that you need to enter the correct remote name created in the previous step. If the command runs successfully and shows the folders in OneDrive, it means the connection is working properly. Next, we will configure the system to mount the ttc_OneDrive folder on OneDrive to the ttc_server folder on the Linux server. The purpose is to allow the server to access this OneDrive folder like a local directory. After the mount is successful, we can use this folder to store backup files, sync data, or upload important files from the server to OneDrive more conveniently. First, we will create a folder on OneDrive. You can name this folder anything you want, as long as it is easy to remember and matches your purpose. Next, we will also create a folder on the Linux server. This folder will be used as the mount point, which means it will display the data from the OneDrive folder we created in the previous step. After that, we will set the appropriate permissions for this folder. Setting permissions allows the system and required user accounts to access, read, and write data to the mount folder after OneDrive is connected successfully. Next, we will check the path of the Rclone configuration file and the path of the Rclone executable on the system. These two pieces of information are very important because later, when we create the systemd service, we need to specify the correct config file path and the correct Rclone executable path. Now, copy these two paths. Next, we will create a new systemd service to automatically mount the OneDrive folder to the Linux server. Instead of manually running the mount command every time the server restarts, this service will do it automatically for us. After that, we will add the prepared service configuration content into this file. However, in this sample service file, you need to replace several values to match your own environment. Specifically, we need to replace the Rclone executable path, the Rclone config file path, the remote name, the folder name on OneDrive, and the mount folder on the Linux server. After replacing these values correctly, copy the entire updated service content. Then paste it into the service file we just created on the Linux server. After that, save the service configuration file and exit. Next, we will open the Fuse configuration file. After that, uncomment user allow other line. This allows other users on the Linux server to access the OneDrive folder after it is mounted with Rclone. Now, we will reload systemd so the system can recognize the new service file we just created. Next, we will start and enable the service we just created to mount the OneDrive folder to the Linux server. Enabling the service allows the system to automatically mount OneDrive again whenever the server restarts. After that, check the service status to make sure Rclone has started successfully. If the status shows active running, it means the OneDrive folder has been mounted to the Linux server. Now, we will move into the folder on the Linux server that has just been mounted with OneDrive. After that, we will create a test file inside this folder. Next, we will go back to OneDrive to check. If the file we just created on the Linux server appears in the OneDrive folder, it means the mount is working successfully. That's it. We have installed Rclone, configured the connection to OneDrive, and mounted a OneDrive folder to the Linux server using a systemd service. I hope you can set it up successfully. Don't forget to subscribe to support the channel. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.